Welcome to the Act Out Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Tomlin. Today's guest is State Senator Angela Williams-Graves. And the senator and I actually went through her entire career, from her beginnings as being the daughter of a pastor, to her work in the city hall, to the state house, all the way to the state senate. I was incredibly grateful that the senator sat down with me, and I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I had making it. Let's roll the tape. Senator, thank you so much for agreeing to come on.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Is this your first time on a podcast?
It is.
Oh,
I feel
okay.
like a whole celebrity.
Well, you definitely are. Well, so I guess, to kind of give the viewers a little behind the scenes, we're actually filming right around the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
And you were kind of telling me earlier that this is a busy season for you, but in a good way, right?
It is. A lot of folks are doing holiday parties and getting together. And so we get invited to all the fun stuff right before we head off for session. So it's really good.
What's been your what's kind of been your favorite perk of being an elected official? Is it these cool holiday parties?
Probably parking.
Parking
Parking is probably the best. Yes, that is probably the best perk ever. Is whenever we go somewhere, I have somewhere to park. That is the best perk ever.
You have made me want to run for office just on
just for the parking
thing alone.
Just for the parking.
My wife Kayla and I, we had moved from Atlanta here to Norfolk a couple of years ago, and so I was kind of used to the bad parking situation, but this is on a whole completely different level.
It is, and especially you're in one of the historic neighborhoods,
Mm-hmm.
and so parking wasn't a big thing. I mean, you had to be wealthy to have a car at one point in time, and so houses were not
today.
built like today, but houses, and there weren't used cars because cars were still just being made, so you didn't have that recyclability of vehicles way back in the day when probably homes like this were being built. Mm-hmm. And so there wasn't a whole lot of parking because folks, if they had a car, they only had one car. And public transportation was interesting because it was the trolley and the bus. And so it was a little bit more, people had a little bit more flexibility in getting around. But now that everybody has a car, everybody's kid has a car, their grandkids have a car, it's definitely different. And it does congest areas that were traditionally built for a one-car family. And God help you if you have an RV.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can just forget it. So it is different. It's very different.
So you are a native of Norfolk, correct?
I am.
What is your favorite part of the city?
Oh, wow. I have a lot of favorite parts of the city because I remember when so many different things, I've watched them change over time. And so I have the Ocean View area. I've watched it bloom, and I remember the Ferris wheel. Anybody looking who it can go back that far in their mind, they'll remember the Ferris wheel. I remember we were talking about Military Circle earlier, and that was, if I had a favorite part, that would probably be it, because it was the first place that my mom let me go. Me and my friends, we could go by ourselves. So we thought we were adults and we could go. There was an arcade there called Flipper McCoy's. And so we would go to the mall, we would go to Flipper McCoy's, and then we would go to Pizza Hut, which is now the Waffle House. It was a Pizza Hut. And so we could go there, and we just thought we were grown and adults. And that, I would say, is probably my favorite place. Military Circle had the best stores in the region, really. And folks who've been around, they remember Tallheimers, they remember Smith and Weltons, they remember Hoffheimer's was the best shoe store ever. And I've always been a clothier, kind of shoe clothes. That's just always been my thing.
Well, I can tell, and you can probably tell that I have not. So,
so all the clothing stores that were there, and it was just a fun place. We had the movies, we had Mother's Records and Tapes. We had the chocolate chip company who made the chocolate chip cookies. And so it was just a great place to go and hang out. And it was safe. And again, it was the first place that my mom let us go. And she would drop us off. And we just kind of felt like we were adults.
Just like hearing you talk about, like, I can feel, that's
Yeah.
like, come.
Ollie's used to be Farm Fresh, which actually before that was Giant Open Air Market. There is a place called, oh my God, I forget the place it was a place that you could go and they would throw parties and teenagers could go there. I wasn't old enough to do that part, but it was just so much fun. And that was just a place where we could there was putt-putt golf where the Hardee's is now, was putt-putt golf and games. And so anybody listening and that has been here for like maybe 20 or 30 years, they can remember some of this stuff. Maybe 40 years. Maybe 40 years.
No, 20 years at the most. I refuse to believe anything older than 20.
I will be 54 in January. So.
Had me fooled. I just assumed that you started like running for office when you were like 10.
Yeah,
that was
that part. I'll take it.
Doing a little background, research on you, and your dad was a pastor. Is that right?
He was a pastor. So I spent every Sunday in church all day. I think we canceled church twice for snow in my entire life.
Oh, wow.
It snowed. It was a really bad snow, like in the 80s, and we canceled church. And then there was another one. But other than that, we were always in church, 3 services every Sunday. Every Sunday.
What's it like growing up, like inside that church, where you're seeing everything behind the scenes and you're seeing like all the different kind of people? Like I'm sure that was a big learning experience for you.
It really was. So I happen to have the pleasure of being the only child born to a sitting pastor of Antioch. It was Antioch Baptist Church. All the other pastors had kids when they came and their kids were like grown or whatever. My brother and sister were teenagers and my mom and dad had me while they were there, almost like when they first got there. And so I grew up in church, like in a fishbowl, really. But my dad just let me be myself. And so there wasn't this expectation that we were perfect. He let us be ourselves. Wow. He really did. And so, but to your point of like seeing things behind the scenes. And when I go to church, there are things that I probably notice that other people don't notice. Like, is the choir, do they really have it together? Is the choir director trying to get them to go one way and they're going someplace else? What are the ushers doing? That kind of thing that you don't see if you don't know how the sausage is made. You're not really looking for all of that stuff. And so it's really interesting when I go to different churches and whatnot, just to kind of see how everything flows really well, or if something is off. I can tell. And it's interesting.
You had actually brought up something very interesting to me that I didn't initially think of. And that was that you said that you kind of felt like you were in a fishbowl a little bit. I would imagine that was a very good introduction for what you are doing now.
It's interesting that you say that, because oftentimes I've thought about that. I've thought about how people can be mean to like the pastor's kid, and you have to develop a thick skin. And going through all of those things that I went through with dealing with people and people saying things about me. And I probably had I have no children, but to let people tell it, I had like 2 or 3 children. My sister got married. She had kids. Well, her kids were really my kids, and it was just this big cover up, right? And so when you live through those things where people say things about you that are clearly not true, you do develop thick skin, and you do develop this sense of you have to own who you are. And that was something that my father taught me, to own who I was, to own the decisions that I made, good, bad, or indifferent, right? And he would say, sometimes doing the wrong thing is a lot of fun, but you got to be prepared to pay the price for it, right?
That is very true.
And it's true, right? And so that was something, those life lessons have been very, very valuable to me, especially in this world of people saying a lot of things online that they probably would never say to your face.
Right.
And one of my actual first campaign manager taught me, don't read the comments.
Oh, okay.
Post your story and don't read the comments. You can read other people's comments.
I should have had her a few weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Don't read your own comments, because you will just have a whole meltdown. And For the most part, I take that advice. Every now and then I'll read, what somebody said. And every now and then I'll get into like this back and forth with someone. And then I'll go, why am I doing this? And just move on,
It's probably someone from Eastern Europe anyway.
It's a bot. It's that part. Is this a voter? Is this a constituent? Is this person even in Virginia? Right? So those are some of the things that I do go through. But it did that growing up in the church and having so many different eyes on me because I was the pastor's kid, it definitely prepared me in a way that I didn't even realize that I was being prepared for this job.
Well, there's going to always be a higher expectation on the pastor's daughter. And being a daughter in particular, as opposed to being, the pastor's son
or something.
Yeah. So, I can imagine that your dad telling you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be you. I'm sure that was probably one of the best lessons that he could have ever given you.
Absolutely. And I take it with me all the time. I'm just going to be me. I refuse to be boxed in. I refuse to be, let people determine who I'm going to be. I'm just going to be me. And cause that's all I can be. I can't be somebody that I'm not. And so I think I'm a pretty good person. So I'm going to stick with that.
I'm going to agree with that. You're here on the podcast. You are the best person ever. Okay. And your mom was also a librarian and
school teacher.
Oh, a school teacher. Yeah. So close. A school and a missionary as well.
Yep, she was. She was a missionary in our church, and she was a school teacher. And so she taught little children. She liked the little children, like first grade, second grade, third grade. She taught a little bit of middle school, but she really liked the elementary school level. She's the one that taught us, and I say us because my sister was home for a little bit before she got married, and my brother went to the Marine Corps and he left, and it was just me. It was just me. But she always wanted to make sure that I spoke well. She wanted to make sure that, in her words, I conjugated the verb to be correctly. And I would say some things, like I would say different things at home, and she would correct me, and I would be like, "But I'm home. It doesn't matter." And she would say, "It doesn't matter if you're home or not. This is where you learn. And if you don't do it right here, then you'll be out in the street and out in public and you won't do it right there. And then you'll embarrass me." And that's not going to happen. So even now when I speak and I know that I'm using incorrect English on purpose, I hear her in the back of my mind because that was a staple in our home. That was always a staple in our home.
Isn't it amazing how a lesson that, you would think would be like very context specific can actually like carry on through you like in many different aspects of your life?
Absolutely.
I was thinking about this the other day. My grandmother was a caterer, and I really liked the idea of having money. I just, like the whole having to work for my grandmother to do it. Yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of, but so I would help her with these catering events. And a lot of times we would use like a rented kitchen, from a church or, like a rec space. And I remember, at the very end of the night, after I'd worked so hard avoiding all the work that she wanted me to do, we'd be cleaning up the kitchen, and I'd be like, we can go now. Like, it looks as good as it was whenever we got here. And she's like, no, you always leave a place better than the way you found it. And that has stuck with me. Like, I mean, even 25 plus years later.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. It's amazing. Those little lessons that you don't realize that are sinking in, they really come back to haunt you.
In the best way, though.
In the best way.
Like the ghost of Christmas Future or something. Yeah.
For sure.
So I guess you really, you didn't have a choice. You were going to be in public service one way or another if both of your parents were.
I didn't know what I wanted to do, really. I was struggling with, what do I want to do? Who do I want to be? I knew that I was independent, but I didn't really embrace that until I was older. But when there was a gentleman who was on city council that I ended up serving with, and I tell this story to young people because I think it's important that you don't judge a person by one act.
Mhm.
You have to look at who they are in totality. And so there was a gentleman who was on city council, and he had done something that I had perceived to be dumb.
Mhm.
And it ended up in the news. And I was like, oh my God, this man is embarrassing the city. Oh my, this is just crazy. I don't know what that job is, but I can do it better. That was what I thought to myself. And so from there, because we were a socially engaged church in social activism and things of that nature, we always had, what do you call it? The drives to register people to vote. And we always reminded people that they needed to vote. And everybody that ran for office came to our church, from city council members to state governors and people from the General Assembly, the whole 9 yards. They always came through our church. And so I knew people. I just didn't exactly know what they did. And so once I determined that this guy on council was dumb and what he had done was dumb and that I could do it better, I started to volunteer on campaigns, and I volunteered with the Democratic Committee and, all of those kinds of things. And I was going to run against him. And the seat on city council for Super Ward 7 came available. And I was talking to some friends, one of them being my first campaign manager and the other one being the former commissioner of the revenue, Sharon McDonald. And they said they both knew that I had a desire to go on council. And they took me to lunch, and I'll never forget it. They were like, "You gonna run for the seat, right?" I was like, "No, because I'm running against him." And they were like, No. This is an open seat. And I didn't understand what they were saying to me, which was, this is an opportunity. If you don't take it, you may never get it. It may be decades before you get another open seat, because it just doesn't happen that way.
Can I ask you a little inside baseball question real quick? So the difference between running for an open seat versus challenging an incumbent, they were telling you that running for that open seat is going to be easier.
Yes.
So would that be the case even if there were, like, the incumbent were weak and, like, he did make that stupid decision like you said?
Yes.
Oh,
it
wow.
was, because he was a long time incumbent.
Oh, okay.
He had been there when I got there. He'd been there about 21 or 2 years.
Okay.
And he had a base and all of those kinds of things. And he really had done good work. I mean, as I came to know him, as I got to know him, I learned that you can say something dumb. You can say something stupid. You can even do something dumb. That doesn't make you dumb. That doesn't make you stupid. That just makes you human, right? That really just makes you human. And that's what I learned in the course of time that I was working with him. And he ended up retiring probably maybe about 3 or 4 years ago. And we did a commending resolution for his 35 years of service on Norfolk City Council. And so, and anybody looking at this podcast, y'all gonna know who I'm talking about, okay? But I came to respect him a lot, and the path that he had to take in order to get to where he was. And that was the other thing that I think I learned, and I tell young people, everybody has a path that gets them to this table or to this seat or to this place. Just because theirs is different from yours doesn't invalidate how they got here. Now, if you're ratchet and all, that's a little bit different. But everybody's story is different, right? And their set of experiences are different. And based on the time in which they came into, there are things as a Black woman I don't even have to deal with now, because there were other Black electeds who dealt with those, they had those fights, they dealt with those things. And so they kind of paved the way for me. I don't have to walk on rocks. I can walk on pavement, right? And so that's the difference in looking at somebody and determining who they are by one single act and not knowing them, not really knowing their story. And he and I didn't always get along. I mean, we always kind of bumped heads about some things, but still I could respect, in talking to him, I could understand why his perspective was different. And he might not ever see things my way, but because my story and my path was different than his. And so I think some of the mutual respect that we see kind of going down the toilet right now.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you about that.
Yeah, we don't talk to people enough. We don't listen to understand where they're coming from. You don't have to agree. but you do have to be respectful of the other person's perspective.
I'm going to have to get on to you. You made way too many good points there. And I was like, what, do I want to go this way, or this way? But it is very interesting that you said that how, that how you can be respectful and, disagree.
Mm-hmm.
I think I kind of noticed, me particularly, paid attention like around 2008 whenever Obama was running.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that it seemed like as soon as he got elected, it became very much like, we're going to do everything we can. Mm-hmm. We're going to do everything we can to make him a one-term president.
Mm-hmm. I think Mitch McConnell actually said that.
Yeah, that was kind of a quote. And so from that point, seems like both parties have, have gone that way. And I mean, you can see from, like a clear line between Mitch McConnell saying that to Donald Trump today. How do we get back to that place where we can disagree without
being disagreeable?
Right.
I don't know. I remember thinking the same thing you just said. I remember thinking that we are going down a slippery slope and we're not going to be able to get back, because regardless of what you think of the person, the human that is occupying the office, there is still a level of respect that is owed to the President of the United States. And so when we went down that road with President Obama, it just snowballed. It was just like a snowball that just kept going. So then it was like, well, you said this and you said that and I can do this and you did that. And, and I think that what we all have to do is just monitor ourselves, is be good self-monitors. If you don't want that said about you, why would you say it about someone else? If you would not want that said about your child, why would you say that about someone else's child? If you would not want that disrespect hurled at you, why it is, freedom of speech. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. But I think that we have to be keepers of ourselves. Yes. And we also have a responsibility to be civil and to be respectful of one another, even if we disagree. And one of the things that, like, some of the elder statesmen who've been in this a long time talk about is how isolating politics has gotten because of the rhetoric that Republicans and Democrats could go out for dinner and drinks and, folks knew each other's families and children and all those kinds of things. And there were some things that were off limits. And little bit by little bit, we have chopped away at the things that are off limits. I mean, you think about the former Speaker of the House in Michigan, Minnesota, who the gentleman came to her house and he had left the senator's house. Right? That is something that did not happen. I mean, I don't even think that happened like 5 years ago. Right? So we've got to do better. I do think that and when we say things, the other piece of it is when we say things, we also have to be mindful that our words matter, especially as leaders. Our words matter more so than other people. I remember people would say to me when I was on city council, well, I know because you're on council, you know more than the rest of us, right? You just know, there's a whole bunch of stuff that you know that we just don't know. And so they either thought I was acting inappropriately because they didn't know what I knew, or they thought that I knew more. And so there was a reason for my action and they just trusted that I was doing the right thing based on what I knew that they didn't know. That was just at city council. So how many people think I know more than the average person because I'm in the state house?
Right.
How many people think that Mark Warner or Tim Kaine or Bobby Scott know more than, and they probably do. And to a certain extent, we do. We get briefings on things, public safety, all these different kinds of things. But our words matter because people do hold us at a higher level. And so you can think it. You can probably say it in the four corners of your own house. Once you are outside the four corners of your own house, I have a responsibility for every word that comes out of my mouth. Yeah. And all of us do. I mean, at some level, we all have to be responsible for what we say, even though it's free to say it.
Well, there is sort of a conflation between freedom of speech and like freedom of consequence.
Bingo.
And those are two wholly distinct things.
Exactly.
I kind of wonder though how. I basically was asking you a trick question earlier when I was like, how do we get to this, like to where we can disagree without being disagreeable? I remember an anecdote of Tip O'Neill, who was the Speaker of the House whenever Reagan was president. Ronald Reagan would call him up at like 5 o'clock and be like, "Hey, Tip, it's 5 o'clock. We can be friends now." And so from 5 p.m. until 8 a.m. the next day, they could be friends.
I love it.
But it seems like parties, particularly political parties, they tend to take on the personality of their leader.
Yeah.
And the Republicans have a leader who believes that he can say whatever he wants, and no one can say anything back to him. Do you think that that will change, like that that insistence on the playing by two sets of rules? Do you think that will change whenever Trump leaves, or is that going to be part and parcel of the Republican Party now?
I'm hopeful that he is an anomaly, and that when he leaves, some of this nonsense leaves with him. He was a celebrity.
Celebrity in air quotes.
Yeah, in air quotes. He was a celebrity in air quotes. He was supposed to be rich. If he wasn't, he is now. And he just had this flair, about him. And I am hopeful that he is an anomaly and that we get back to, because I do believe that I've had some friends that were Republican and they are reasonable people.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's teaching the next generation of elected officials.
Right.
I really don't know what he's teaching the next generation of elected officials, which in my opinion, again, is incumbent upon us to be a gold standard of what is acceptable or what, not even politically correct, but what is good.
Yeah.
And what is just a good human being? What is a good example of a good human being, right? And that's what I kind of think. But I'm hopeful he's an anomaly because I don't think we could stand another one of him.
No, I didn't think we could stand another term of his, but hopefully I was wrong on that part.
That part, yeah, that part. Because J.D. Vance doesn't have his anything. So I don't think J.D. Vance would be able to get away with what Trump has been able to get away with.
You had said that you were going to run for the open seat on the Super Ward. How difficult of a decision was it for you to run in the first place? Like to kind of flip that switch from like, can I,
Well, when my campaign manager said to me, does it matter what the seat is? You want to do the work, right? And I said, yeah, I do. She said, well, then go. We got to go. And so I did. And I was all in. I'm almost, as I get older, I think before I jump, I'm a jump and then, okay, there's water here. All right. We'll just figure it out, And so I wanted to do it anyway. And they made a very rational point. Does it matter what the seat is? You want to do the work.
Yeah.
And it was a larger footprint. It was half the city as a super ward as opposed to just the smaller ward. And so I ran. I think what I didn't understand, the thing that I really didn't understand the most when I ran was how much money it was going to cost, which it is significantly more money now than it was then. But even then, if I had known what the cost was going to be, I probably would have just said, no, I'm good. Because I don't have that kind of money. I don't know people that have that kind of money. I don't know anybody to ask that has that kind of money. Where are we going to get this kind of money? And then when I say this kind of money, I mean like $30,000 at that time was a super ward, election. And Now it's probably a little over 100.
Jeez.
And well, some of that has to also do with moving the local elections from May to November. And that was a vote in the General Assembly that I abstained from because I knew better. Because my special was in November. I was on the ballot when Scott Ridgel and Glenn Nye. Glenn Nye was up for re-election and Scott Ridgel was running for his first term. And so all of us, there were 4 of us, we got all caught up in, which the national issues then were not nearly as prevalent as they are now. I would not want to run in a local election now with all of the national stuff because people don't understand the different levels and what folks are responsible for at the local level, the state level, and the federal level. So if all they're hearing is national news, number one, you have to spend a lot of money to get your name out. You have to spend a lot of money to get your message out. And you're competing with federal and possibly state elections, depending on what year it is. And so it's much more expensive now than it was when 15 years ago and in May.
How do people break through then? You know, the news shots. How does a Zoran Mamdani happen?
I don't know. That's a good question because he was a mayoral race in a lot of other contested gubernatorial races. I think it was us. And who? Massachusetts, Kentucky. Who else was on the ballot? New Jersey.
Yeah, New Jersey.
It was us in New Jersey for governor. And then there were some other specials. And then it was our whole General Assembly, our House members, 100 House members were up. I think you do a lot of polling. And you look at the issues that are important to you, and you look at the issues that are important that are coming back from polling. And if they align, then you take your messaging with the polling. We did polling when I ran for the House of Delegates. No. When I ran for the Senate in our primary. And a lot of our messaging was spot on with the polling results that we got. And the things that we don't agree with, I just don't talk about.
Okay, I was just about to ask you that because I think that a big critique of the Democratic Party on the national level, so I will kind of separate you, is that very much we're going to poll this. Let's make sure that like this tests decent with like Midwest moms before we like roll this out.
Well, I think you're looking at voters. A lot of folks don't really know that while candidates don't have access to how you voted, candidates do have access to who voted. And if they are leaning Republican, or if they're strong Republican, or if they're leaning Democrat, or if they're strong Democrat, and you then can take that information and poll those people, because it really doesn't do you any good to poll people who don't vote.
Right.
But nowadays there's some hesitancy about that because there are people who have decided they're not going to vote. And the reason they feel like they're not going to vote is because they don't feel like that folks are speaking to their issues, right? But then you have to look at where do you fall in the grand scheme of things. So, for example, I used to always say, well, nobody speaks to my issue. I was a single woman. I did not have children. I was not a family. Okay. So everybody would talk about the family and this and that. And I'm like, well, nobody, what? What about me? Right. Well, I'm like in the 0.03 percentile of voters. So no, they're not going to be talking about me. However, if families are doing well, then ideally single folks are doing well, right? Like if the economy is doing well for a family of 4, then if you're a family of 1, then ideally you're doing well also.
Yeah.
If the roads, all the roads that we drive on are not just for families, they're for everybody, right? We don't just pick up the trash for the families, we pick up the trash for everybody. So that kind of thing, in looking at where does your demographic really fall in the big picture of voters. And if you're not hearing a story that relates to you or an issue that relates to you, think about how you may benefit from this issue if it goes the way that it should or it goes a different way. So, I mean, we look at people now, like with immigration and all this, people think that only certain people are going to, or healthcare, for example, you know, there are people, oh, we don't want Obamacare. We don't want Obamacare. Okay, but wait a minute, hold up. You benefit from pre-existing conditions, all right? So we can do away with the ACA, but now what, right? Your kid who is not working and is deciding if they want to go to school and get their master's or not can stay on your insurance until they're what, 24, 25, something or another like
26.
that? 26. There you go. Now, if we take away the ACA, guess what? Your kid doesn't have insurance anymore. So it doesn't just things don't just affect a select group of people. These issues affect everybody.
There were a lot of folks in the 2024 election that voted against their own interest. Why do you think that happened? And what do you think can be done about it? Like what can Democrats do?
I think that the Republicans are really good spinsters on things. They can spend anything. And I think that the president and a lot of the folks that he has surrounded himself with are people who are running in red states. They sow fear.
Yes.
They simply sow fear. And so when you talk to people and they have everything, and you have convinced them that somehow they're going to lose it all if these other people get in power, you sow fear. And so people will vote against their own best interests because they think they're punishing someone else.
Yes.
When in reality, they don't realize the benefit. I want everybody to have equal rights. I want everybody to be able to go to the doctor. I want everybody to be able to get a good education. I want everybody. I mean, somehow that message has been translated into, if all these people have everything, you're going to have nothing.
That zero-sum attitude, that was literally just what I was going to say. So there's an argument that is put forward on that other side. If the senator has has the same like shot as I do, then I lose. Now, first of all, I don't think that that's the case. I want you to have an opportunity. I want everyone to have an opportunity. I don't see your success as my failure.
Right. But there are people who do. There are people who feel like they're entitled. There is an incredible entitlement syndrome in America. And there are people who feel like they are entitled to have whatever it is that they think they should have. There are people who feel like because they don't, that somehow it's somebody else's fault that they don't. I tend to believe there's enough room for everybody who wants to work.
Yeah.
If you don't have something, it's not because there's not an opportunity. It's because maybe you did get dealt a bad hand. Maybe you were born with an illness that doesn't let you work. Maybe you were born into poverty. Maybe you were born, there are a lot of people who are victims of their circumstances, and everybody isn't able to like pull themselves up and out of their circumstances. Everybody is not able to do that. But there are people, if you give them a hand and help them and provide a pathway, they will. Then there are some people who, even if you provide the pathway, they still won't. And they want to blame somebody else. And it's like, okay, but dude, that's not my fault.
Yeah.
That's not my fault. You had the pathway and you didn't take it. So don't be mad at me because I took the pathway,
right,
or somebody else took the pathway and they succeeded and you didn't. So I firmly believe that there's enough room at the top for everybody who wants to work. And not everybody really wants to work.
I think that there should be, but there's just, I see so many systemic things that are in place that there was actually a kid maybe like 6 months ago. He was delivering some food for me, and I talked to him once before, just like kind of chit chat. And that second time he came up to me, he was talking about my house, and he was like, I just could see it in his eyes, like I want to live in a house like this. He's like, what can I do?
Yeah.
And we
Like
could
when
see
I drive
that.
through Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
What do I have to do to live here?
Yeah. But there was just this desire in his that I knew that if he had an opportunity, that kid was going to be able to take it. But at the same time though, I feel like for a kid like that, who is probably working paycheck to paycheck, there's really not that opportunity to be able to kind of go out on your own and to be able to pursue your own happiness.
I think that with some guidance though, and some options, there are a lot of people. So I came from a home where my parents believed I could be anything I wanted to be. I didn't necessarily believe them, but they believed it, right? And there are a lot of children who don't even have that.
Right.
They don't even have parents or family that believes in them. And it's because of what they see around them. They're trapped in circumstances.
Yeah.
So I was just fortunate that even though I wasn't sure of what I could be, I knew there were options around me. I tell this story about Barack Obama being president. His presidency was totally lost on me. I went to private school and it was all Black kids. St. Mary's is I believe still at this present moment, the only Black Catholic church in the Hampton Roads area, right? Predominantly Black Catholic church. And the only white people in my school were 3 nuns. That was it. All the other teachers were Black. The students were Black. It just was. And we were required to be excellent. It was the standard. It was the norm. There was no excuses for it. We were required to be excellent. So I felt like I grew up feeling like if you did the right things, the right things would come to you, right?
Yeah.
And doors would be open and so forth and so on. And because I grew up around a bunch of Black kids, I didn't experience racism until I was 22 or 3 years old. And so when you grow up that way, when I saw Barack Obama and he was going to be the first Black president of the United States, and it was all the to do. I was like, oh, okay, well, that's great. I mean, he went to Harvard or Yale or wherever he went, and he was smarter than everybody. Okay, so what's so extraordinary about that, right? And I didn't realize how much of an anomaly he really was until he was gone, probably late into his second presidency after all of the things like the tan suit debacle and Michelle Obama with her arms out in the official picture. And,
I wish I had her biceps.
I know, right? I'm like, are y'all serious? But that's what ended up happening. And so, I didn't know that was this big of a thing because I had grown up in this era of no matter who you are, if you did the right things, good things were going to come to you. There were going to be opportunities. And it wasn't until I got to high school that I started to see that everybody didn't grow up like I did. Yeah. And everybody didn't have the same opportunities that I did. And then as I got grown and I started to realize how things, just like how being a woman is different, how being a Black woman is different, how, all of those things come with their own issues. Yeah. And it's really not an issue for us. It's an issue for everybody else. And it's like, okay, why is this a problem for you now? And
right.
But I think that, so you have people who don't have that level of exposure. I grew up with Senator Lucas. I grew up with Senator Yvonne B. Miller, like those ladies being my role models, right? And Dawn Hester, who's now the treasurer of the city of Norfolk.
I get her mail a lot. I am never happy to see her name, I'll be honest. I'm sure she's a sweetheart.
She's a wonderful person. She taught high school at my high school, and I grew up seeing her, and I grew up seeing so many phenomenal people who were women, who were Black women. And it was just a thing. It was not a thing. It was just the norm. But there are a lot of people who don't grow up with that. Yeah. Who really, and I'm certain that in both races, there are people who grow up without access, without seeing, role models up close and personal. It's not like on television. Just people would say, well, who's your, like your role model? It's my dad, my mom. I don't care who's on TV, right? I could care less. But there are folks who only grow up seeing what they see on television, and they don't see real life people who are doing the thing or being the thing to know that this is an option. And unfortunately, a lot of children too get pigeonholed because of where they come from, or because of the color of their skin, or because of how they speak. They don't have a mom who is an English teacher, right? So they don't have that. And so they don't always use the best diction, and they don't always use the best conjugation of the verb to be. They don't do all those things. And so they get pigeonholed into you can only be when they're brilliant. And they get lost in the sauce because nobody takes the time. Maybe they can't be entrepreneurs, but what are you good at? What are you smart? What comes really easy to you, right? Like I have a friend, she was like 27 years old and had her PhD in math. And I'm like, go girl, go. Okay. I need my calculator. Okay. But that came easy to her, right? So what is it that you like to do? What is it that is easy to you? What are you talented in? And then how can we take that and monetize it so that you can get off the bicycle delivering food, right? And you can start with a really nice apartment, and then you can buy your first home, and then you can buy, and you can move up the proverbial life ladder. And I don't think we do enough of that.
Do you see, like, how much of a role do you see, like, government and kind of like in the hand-ups, so to speak?
I think that I like that equity box, equity and equality box. Like everybody doesn't just need a box to stand on, because some people are shorter and they need a couple of boxes and, all that. I think that that's a position that is very, that's overlooked, right? Equity, for whatever reason, has become a dirty word, according to some people. And everybody doesn't just get started with, like, I have circumstances that I got started with. There are kids who are poor and who are born into poverty, and their parents are on drugs, or their mom and dad don't work, or they're in abusive homes and things like that. All of the things that they deal with, or they're taking care of their little brothers and sisters and they're not eating because they're making sure that their little brothers and sisters eat. So when they come to school, they are hungry and they're tired. And so they're not lazy and going to sleep. They are tired because they're being the parent and the child all at the same time. When I had 9 o'clock bedtime, I was in the bed by 9 o'clock. I was asleep by 10 o'clock. We took a bath. We did, I never went without a meal. So I don't know what that's like. So how do those things affect a child's trajectory in what they are and what they can become as adults, especially if you don't have extra programs, after school programs, feeding programs, the school lunch programs, the after school, feeding programs and things or tutors. The kid may be smart, but if he's playing the mom and the dad, he doesn't have time to do homework.
Right.
He doesn't have time to study for the test. So how do we help them in a way that makes sense? I think those are the kinds of equitable pieces that government can provide funding for. And then as a society, we can come along and put in the human capital.
It's very ironic to me that the people who are so like lambasting DEI are the very reason we need DEI in the first place. I mean, like this administration is just a walking bunch of les incompetents, as the
they're a whole walking talking white men. That's all it is. That's all that is important in the world is just white men. It's just nothing else is important, and it's amazing. It's crazy to me.
Whenever Shirley Chisholm was running for vice president, she said that she had a more difficult time being a woman than being a person of color. And anecdotally, I noticed that during the 2024 campaign. With Kamala, she would have your mom basically grading every single word she said and how it was said, and it was probably like, but is she gonna be okay enough to be our leader? Meanwhile, Donald Trump at a rally was bopping along to Ave Maria like it was Cool in the Gang for 45 minutes. And people at the end were like, this is the steady hand we need. how, like, can you kind of speak to that? Like, it just...
Well, you think about Hillary Clinton and how criticized she was for being, primarily for being a woman, and she was a white woman. So to me, it's like, okay, well, what does America think of women?
Yeah.
To the point of Shirley Chisholm. Because we had a white woman who was very qualified. We had a black woman that was very qualified. I mean, like, what are y'all looking for? And it leads me to believe that America has a problem with women in leadership. And some of that may go back to way back in the day when women were property and, we were given to whoever's brother to marry, and we couldn't own property, and we couldn't do, like the hunter-gatherer thing, and the woman who, made the household. And some of that probably goes back to that, because ideals are generally passed on from generation to generation, whether you live them or not. So in how you view women is how you talk to your son about women, and how he then talks to his son about women. And that's how those things, that all of those ideologies get passed on from generation to generation. How do you view women? How do you view Black people? How do you view people who are disabled? How do you view people who are immigrants? How do you view, it's just one of those things. And so we've got to decide how we view women in this country. I mean, Michelle Obama just recently said it, don't even trip, because I'm not running because y'all not ready. Okay. Don't even trip because y'all are not ready. And she's right. She's, because I don't know who else we could have gotten that was more qualified than the two women we had. I don't know what one was more seasoned. So if you want to say, oh, okay, well, we need somebody that's got a little bit more life experience. Okay, well, you had Hillary. I mean, like, Kamala wasn't 21.
Yeah.
So, like, how do you...
She was vice president for 4 years.
Yeah, and she was vice president. Yeah. So, like, I think it all goes to, and I agree with that statement, and I have dealt with some stuff I just really don't see. I will tell you, I've had women tell me, and I'm like, really, that's the thing? And they're like, really, that's the thing. And there are some things that I just really don't see because, again, I go back to my parents who were like, be yourself. And you can do whatever if you work hard and you do the homework and you do the thing, right? You can do it. You can be it. You can whatever. And my dad taught me not to take crap off dudes. So,
from the very beginning, I was like, I better not cross her. She looks like she.
that. And so but I also have to realize that, again, everybody didn't have that.
Right.
And it's not that they grew up wrong. It's that they grew up different. And so they have a different set of insecurities. They have a different set of strengths. They have a different set of values, or how they prioritize things, or how they come to a decision. Like I said, I leap first sometimes and then go, probably shouldn't have done that, but we're here now. Let's figure it out. How we get it done,
exactly.
But as I get older, that changes, right? Because you don't have but so many leaps ahead of you as you get older. But I think being a woman is if there is a thing, it's that. It's that.
So what do you think, like me, what can I do? Like, I see that there's an issue. Like, I want to help out and be an ally. Like, what's something, like, what's somebody like me, a white man?
There's a book that I haven't read, but I love the title. It's like How to Be an Anti-Racist.
Okay.
Like something on there like that. Like how, when you have friends or people that you know, and they may say things not even thinking about it.
Yes.
They have these thoughts that they got from somewhere. Have a conversation and say, that don't make sense, right? You do know that. And explain, like why. And I think for some, not all, because it still amazes me at the men who fight women in leadership when they have daughters. Like, and grown daughters, not just little girls in the Girl Scouts, but like grown daughters who are being discriminated against at work. And they're doing they've got all of the education, they've got all of the qualifications, and they still lose the promotion to a guy. And then dad over here is in a position of power and he's fighting women in positions of power. That blows my complete mind.
Yeah. I worry about the lesson that the daughter learns from that whenever you see your dad being like,
what
no,
what are you teaching them, right? And so, do you really just want your daughter to go to college to find a husband?
Right, the MRS degree, right? Yeah.
Is that what you really? I mean, that's a whole lot of money to spend to find a husband. But okay, if that's what you want to do, then so be it. But I think that just challenging some of those norms and some of those conversations about people and using people that you've met and know as examples of why that's not true, and letting people know that this is not an anomaly, because that's one of the things that we deal with. Well, you're a different kind of Black person. No, I'm not. I got a whole graduating class out of St. Mary's Academy that's just like me. I got a whole graduating class out of Booker T. Washington High School that's just like me. I am not an anomaly, right? And so stop thinking that just because this Black person is successful, this Black person speaks well, this Black person has achieved something, that they're an anomaly. And then the reverse is also true, in that if someone grew up poor and they grew up in poverty or disadvantaged or whatever, and they made it, that everybody can do that, because everybody can't. We are all different. I'll give you a quick example. My husband quit smoking cold turkey. Just put the cigarettes down, didn't pick them up again, let them sit on the counter for like a year. And after a whole year of not smoking, threw them in the trash, never smoked again. There are people who need nicotine patches. They need gum. They need all kinds of stuff, right, to stop smoking. And they may get there. They may get to the place where they stop smoking, but their process is just different. And some of them don't have the willpower that he had. He's like, well, it's just mind over matter. You don't mind, it don't matter. And I'm like, okay. But other people need a patch. They need this. They need, they need all this
hypnotherapy and everything.
All of that. And so just because one person could come out of a bad situation and be an example, everybody is not going to be Oprah.
Right.
Everybody is not going to be Tyler Perry. Everybody is not going to be Steve Harvey. There are some people who are still sleeping in their car and they are just as talented, but they don't have the inner, and they may need somebody to push them along. So we're all not, we're very different.
Yeah.
And everybody is like that. Everybody is.
So growing up, I was in a more of an insulated, or a very, very insular community. And it wasn't certainly wasn't like a conscious thing, but I think that I kind of developed the idea that different was a threat. If it was different than me, it was going to be a threat.
America's based on it.
Yes, yeah, very much
America's based on it.
But whenever I went to college, so from a rural town, then went to college in Atlanta.
Oh wow!
And right, exactly. And so it was in the very best way, though. I mean, and I just dove headfirst into it. I was into taking politics of hip hop and stuff by the time it was over. But it was one of those things where I being so immersed into it, I was like, wait, yes, she is she is different than me in some things, but we have a lot of the same goals. We have the same hopes, dreams. We're pretty much the same. It's different isn't a threat. I'm now going to have to go out of my way to come up with reasons not to like her. It was sort of one of those things. And so I think that once you kind of get introduced to other people and other ways of doing things, you see different isn't wrong. It's just different. Yeah, it's just different.
It's just different. And the interesting part about that is, if you think about it, I always say that you can tell how many Black people a white person really, really knows at their wedding and their funeral. If at your wedding you have one Black friend, you got one Black friend. All right. Them and their spouse, they came to the wedding. That's it. If at the funeral, the only people who are Black are coming to your funeral are people who worked for you, you have a very vanilla life.
Yeah.
So their wedding and their funeral.
Growing up, there was a lot of folks no, it's not. I'm not racist. I have a Black friend, and then it got to the point. Well, I'm not racist. I have a Black president. So it's. But I think that's where it kind of goes back to what you had said earlier, where it's no, you're different than everyone else. But no, there's no Really no
It's really
difference.
not. We are so much more alike than we are different. There are differences, and there's supposed to be differences because we're individual human beings. But there are so many similarities of people. People generally want a good life. They want to be able to I don't know anybody who doesn't want to take care of their family.
Yeah.
If they're capable, that's a whole different story, but they want to take care of their family. They want to be loved. They want to live in a safe community. They want their kids to be safe when they're outside playing. They want their kids to get a good education so their kids can have a good life. I mean, these are things that, and if there is an injustice, they want to be able to be protected by the justice system equally. I don't those are things that now, if you like 70 degrees and I like 65, no, let's back that up. I like 70 degrees and you like 65. That's totally different. We're different that way. If you prefer to take a long hot bath and I like a shower, we're different that way. But, I worked with a young lady. She loved flats. Me, not so much. She's like, I'm just not comfortable in heels.
I exclusively wear flats.
You exclusively wear flats. Okay. Me, I love heels, right? So we're different like that. But those are small things. The basic things about life, those are the things that everybody wants. And just because I have it doesn't mean you can't.
So that, like, I can tell your dad was a preacher, you know. Did you kind of like pick up some public speaking kind of tips from him?
Oh, wow. So I learned how to speak in public in church. So we were a mega church before it was popular.
Oh, okay.
And we would have to do, like, I'd do the welcome in front of like 2,500 people on Sunday at like 6 years old.
Wow.
And we would do the announcements for the church, announcements. Every month we had a youth Sunday. So the youth got to participate in every aspect of the service. And you really don't realize what you're learning and how valuable that skill. I know people who would rather eat glass than speak in front of 5 people, much less I think the largest number of folks I've spoken in front of, I did a presentation at the Chrysler Hall. And it was a full house at some production, and I was presenting one of the dancers with the proclamation from the city, and we did it before the event started, and it was full. But I mean, there are people who would eat glass. I love it. I love it. People don't. Like somebody said, they love doing the public speaking. So when they were in college and they had a group project, people didn't want to do the public speaking part. And he was like, well, I didn't want to do the work part. So y'all do the work. I'll do the public speaking. We'll both get A's.
That was me. Me too. Did that.
Yes. Y'all do it. I'll present it. We are good.
So growing up, I went to church a lot, every Wednesday, every Sunday. And it was Pentecostal, where, like they would, like you would like touch your forehead and like, and then like speaking in tongues and stuff.
I'm with you, yeah.
So I got I get a little scared, of that. And so what I would do, and it was like my watching the pastor and how he could like use his voice and control kind of the crowd, and like how he would be able to like elicit emotion from like his tone and his body language. Like that was like one of the first times where like seeing that, I was like, wow, like the power that, someone can have like over a crowd like that. Is so cool. Yes.
Words matter. Words matter. Yep.
So, Senator, you're going to be going to Richmond pretty soon to start your session. I think what's the split in the Senate? How many Democratic senators and how many Republican senators?
2119.
Oh, okay. So it's still the 2119
because we're not up until we're 4 years.
Okay.
So we won't be up until 27. Ideally, we'll pick up a couple of more seats in 27. We'll get to 22 or 3 or 4 in 2027. But we're 2119.
So I know that a lot of the Democrats ran on a very ambitious agenda. And in this 25 campaign, what are the kind of like are there any like kind of like realities in the Senate where like, we may not be able to pass this because the numbers aren't there?
We are the chamber of reality. Yes, we are the chamber of reality. Winning is easy. Yeah, I mean, it's hard, but it's the easy part. Governing is very different because governing requires that you build consensus.
Right.
And even as Democrats, all Democrats are not equal. And so you have to be mindful that you are not going all the way to the left in policy. And because people don't want to be dragged to the left, they like to walk with you. And so it's still Virginia. We're still kind of pink, purple, whatever you want to call it. And so there are still people who are very moderate in their thinking, but we have some shared values. And so you just have to make sure that you're not going just completely wild with legislation because you have this 64 seat majority over in the House. We've got a 21 seat majority. Actually, it'll be 22 because of the lieutenant governor in the Senate. But you can't just pull people. You've got to be moderate and mindful and then engage folks. Let them know why we're doing what we're doing. What is the benefit to them? How is it going to help your life? How is it going to make life more affordable for you? How is it going to make life safer for you? How is it going to, those kinds of things. And so that's where now the rubber meets the road in that we have to make sure that we're governing in a manner that people will come walk beside us and not be looking to push us back out. And that's the thing that I think a lot of the new legislators are going to they're going to have to learn the a little difficult way. I won't say the hard way, but it might be a little
the freshman. Everybody's like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed whenever they're a freshman. Were you like that? Did you kind of did you run into the chamber of reality, so to speak?
I did run into the chamber of reality because city council and the General Assembly are totally different. I came in in 21 where we still had a trifecta. Okay. We lost it in 22 and 23, and then we got it back in 24. And so what I always say is that nobody knows what they think they know going into office. And even if you're coming from one branch to another. So going from city council with 8 people to going to the General Assembly with 100. And now that was the House, and now to the Senate with 40. And so how things are done, what's the politics, how's the sausage made, where's the bathroom? Those are all things that are very important, And so I'm more of a moderate, and there are things that I feel very passionate about, like women's right to choose. I feel like people, once they've done their time, they should be able to vote. I feel like who you love is your business. Who you love is your business. As long as if you love somebody, there's enough hate in the world. If you love somebody, have at it. It is what it is. And so, and I'm a business owner and, all of those kinds of things. So I am a little bit more moderate on some things, and especially like in monetary issue, we cannot just spend and be spendthrifts. I value our bond rating.
Can you please tell my wife that as soon as we get
my
off?
husband won't believe it. Okay. My husband will not believe that I said that. So it's like, no, we can't spend other people's money. That's what we cannot spend. I can spend yours, but we can't spend other people's money.
I'm sorry. So it's important to maintain our bond rating.
It's important to maintain our bond rating. It's important to maintain our reserves. It's important to make sure that we pay the people who work for us. All of those things.
Can you tell that to the president, please?
That whole part right there. So all of those things are important, and there are a lot of competing interests and a lot of interests that have been neglected over time. And so we can't just in one swell swoop fix everything that has been neglected over time. That too will take some self-correction, and whatnot. But I think we're in a good place. I think we're in a really good place.
So, I kind of imagine sort of the Mr. Smith goes to Washington type deal whenever, you're running for office and you have, I'm going to be able to fix this, I'm going to be able to fix that. It's really easy to be like an armchair quarterback or an armchair legislator. How difficult is it for you to be able to find your priorities that you are going to be able to focus on and make sure that those are, like resonating with your constituents?
I think now it's easier than it has been. I think there are lots of folks who are in the same thought process as far as priorities and values and what they're looking for. I think social media has made it easier for us to message and get information out to folks and telling them what we're doing, where we're at, all that kind of stuff. Everybody makes the mistake, generally speaking, of I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. No, you're not. You yourself have one vote. I had one vote on city council. I had one vote in the House of Delegates. I got one vote in the Senate. That's it. It's not weighted by population. It's none of those things. And so you have to find other people who value what you value or who have the priorities that you have and find those people and bond with them in order to be able to get those things done. And that's not that difficult because it's not like it's an infinite number of people. Right. It's a finite number of people. And so you find those folks that align. And then some things you may be like, oh, great, this works. And then other times you're like, nope, not on this issue. Sorry, can't help you there. But being upfront about it and working through those challenges, because again, we're human and we're different. And people have different constituencies as well. So my constituency is probably more liberal than, say, somebody out in Southwest, right? Their constituency is not as liberal. And I get that. But by the same token, they're liberal on some things.
Right.
They're not liberal on all things. And so you really have to understand the people that you represent and that you're there to hold their best interests for. And I think that's an easy way to come together and to find like-minded folks in the General Assembly to help you get those things done. The other piece is sometimes you think something is wrong or it's bad until you get there and you understand the why. Sometimes people don't, and I don't think we do as good a job as we can in explaining the why things are the way that they are, or why is this the way that it is. I don't know that over the course of time, explanations have been given, or there was a platform like social media to give an explanation as to why you voted this way or why you voted that way. Or, there are the detail, like Congress gets these bills as like 600, 700, 800 pages. Really? We pay people to go through those 800 pages and tell us what the problems are. But the average person just knows you didn't vote for it.
Right.
So then it's our responsibility to say, okay, but on page 389, paragraph 2, it took all of your whatever away. That was included in this bill. It gave you this, but it took away that. And it just wasn't a good balance there.
And then it could also be a procedural issue where you're like, hey, this bill, I would vote for this in a heartbeat, but the manner in which it was done is going to set a precedent that is so
and there may be competing bills that are working. Just because you voted against this one, the member knows that there's another one, and this one doesn't have everything in it, but this one is going to be a compromise of the two. And so you vote against this one and people get all up in arms because you voted against this one. Go, oh, wait, just hold on. Slow down. We got this one over here that's coming, and it's going to have a combination. We're taking out all the bad stuff from that one. We're putting all the good stuff in this one, and this is the one that's coming. And that's the politicking that happens that people don't really see.
After kind of hearing that answer, I feel like I'm going to know your answer to this question as well. But in the Federalist Papers, there was sort of a debate over how a representative should represent their constituents. And it was sort of the mirror theory. One side was the mirror theory, where whatever the passions of the constituents were at the time, that should be the passion of the constituent, like ran for the representative. The other side, though, was that needed to have kind of a reality check, so to speak, where you are able to kind of be a little more reasoned and not kind of go on emotions. So where do you see a place for both types of representatives, and why do you think one side is better than the other?
I do see a place, provided that the rah-rah is validated. If the rah-rah is validated, I'm with you. Let's go, girl, go. Let's go, right? But if the rah-rah is not validated, then I think it is important for elected officials to be able to say, no, this is wrong. I'm not voting for this, because from a big picture perspective, right? I can't vote on something that is great for my district, which out of 48 precincts, I have 43 in the city of Norfolk, but that is not good for the other 5. Nor can I vote for something that is good for the city of Norfolk as a whole, that would then cause crazy astronomical problems for the Commonwealth of Virginia. Right. So, and people may go, oh, we need to do this. We need to do this. Okay. What have you heard? What was the rah-rah that you heard? What was the framework that you were given for this issue? And why do you feel like this is so great? It may not be. And then there's the details of it all. The name of the bill may sound like it's great. The summary may sound like it's great. But then when you start reading the who, what, when, where, and how of the bill, how it's going to be implemented, what are the people that it's going to affect, what is it going to cost, right? And where is that money coming from? And what are we taking that money from in order to do this? What are we taking from here to do that? Then we have to look at all of those things and put the reality check into place and say, this is not. And I have had to do that. I mean, I served on city council longer than I've been in the General Assembly. And in the General Assembly, there are a lot of pieces at play, because there's not just the legislation. It's also the legislator that's carrying it, and who they are, what committees they sit on, what kind of power they have, what kind of seniority do they have. Yeah. So there are some folks whose bills you may not want to vote against, because you don't want them to be mad with you, right? And then kill all your bills. So there's all that stuff there's all that stuff that goes into play in the General Assembly that doesn't necessarily happen on city council, right? So on city council, you can openly disagree with something or someone, because there's just the 8 of you and you kind of all need each other at some point. You need 5 to get anything done. So you can only piss off people to whatever extent that they're going to support anything else. But when you go into a place where collectively there are 140 people and there are 2 chambers, I had a bill. I didn't like the bill. I thought it was a horrible bill. However, the senator who was carrying the bill was a committee chair and had a lot of seniority. And I had to go, then once we hit crossover, I have to take my bills over there. And that senator has influence on other senators. I don't want all my bills to die. Right. You know what I mean? So I can't be but so effective. So sometimes people do a thing called taking a walk. So when the vote is up, it's going to pass. Right. Whether you vote for it or not, you just get them to go to the bathroom. You just get them to go to the bathroom, and you're good.
So I would imagine for that, you would kind of have to do a balancing act of just how bad is this bill? And I mean, is there going to be like a direct harm? Right. Or is this just something where if I can hold my nose and swallow it, it's not going to be the end of the world? I can imagine that being a difficult line to find.
Especially when, as they say, a bill catches a fever and you got all the people, saying all the different things, and you got a lot of conflicting information. And then you have a patron, the member, to deal with as well. And it may be something that's very important to them. It may be very important to their community. If it's very important to their community and it doesn't negatively impact mine, have at it. Yeah. I'm really okay with that, but then there are some things that it's like, fundamentally, this goes against everything that I believe in, and I can't just hold my nose and vote for it. And I can't take a walk either. Yeah. Because this just fundamentally goes against everything that I believe in. So it's a tightrope.
Yeah. I'm gonna kind of go back to the very beginning where your dad, just said you only have to be yourself. Yep. Was that something with him like telling you that early on? Was that something that you were always were like, I am me and that's good enough? Or was it kind of a struggle for you to really truly develop that feeling?
Every now and then I've lost my marbles and I've tried to be somebody that I was not. Probably in my 30s and maybe early 40s. And I've learned that being me, and it's always come in like trying to fit in.
Mhm.
That's where the trouble has always come. It's come in trying to fit in with whatever crowd, whoever the people are. It's always come in trying to fit in. And every time it blows up in my face, you know, you really didn't have to do that. You really know, you know, and I remind myself. And so now I'm at a point where I'm 53 years old. I am going to be who I am. And there will be people who will like it, and there will be people who won't. And that's just life. And that's kind of, it grows exponentially as an elected official, but it's still life. It's still like, you got to be okay with people not liking you. You've got to be okay with that. If you can be okay with not being on everybody's Christmas card list, not getting an invitation to everybody's party, not being a part of the cool kids club every single time, you will be okay. You will be okay.
You know, that's very interesting, because I feel like a lot of the people who run for office kind of have that opposite attitude of what you were talking about, wherein it seems like it's very much all about them. And, you know, it's all about like trying to get that viral moment, so to speak. How do you get less of those people to run for office and more people who are wanting to make a difference to run? Like, how do you encourage the people that are want to be public servants and kind of like discourage the
viral clickers,
the lawn boaters, so to speak?
I think as a society of people, we have to stop rewarding bad behavior. We really have to stop rewarding bad behavior. And if we stop rewarding bad behavior with follows and likes and shares and all that kind of stuff, then people will be forced to be more genuine. I remember when all we had was a newspaper and the 3 nightly news channels. That was, you know, that was pretty much all we had. And now everybody, I heard Whoopi say this one time, anybody with a microphone can be a reporter. Anybody with a phone
or start a podcast.
A podcast can be a reporter, right? And that's not what journalism really is. It's not just anybody catching a moment or having, you know, saying something and it just taking off. That's one brain fart. Okay, that's all that is. This is one. You gotta be consistent. And I believe that when we start talking to people about running for office, we really have to look at how consistent they have been. What are they doing? What have they done? How consistent have they been? Says the person who had done nothing before she ran for city council. Okay. Who had done, I mean, really had really not done anything, but just had this background and idea that she could do the job. And folks believed in me. And a lot of the other thing I believe is that like folks believed in me because of my parents. My parents were very well known in this town. And so they gave me a chance. Yeah. Now I had an obligation and a responsibility to not screw that up. I really did. I had a responsibility to not screw up the good name that my parents left me when they left the earth. And so that's the thing for me is people took a gamble, and I am responsible for making sure that they get paid off well in a manner of speaking. No, it's just a responsibility. But I think we've just got to be very careful when we ask people to run for office, looking at what folks are doing. Are they making a difference in their own little space? There is a scripture that says, if you are faithful over a few things, I will make you ruler over many. And so are they faithful over the little things that they're doing in their community, over the children, over the seniors, over the neighborhood? Are they faithful in doing those things? And then do they have good character as well? Because this job comes with a lot of power and influence. And if you don't have good character, if you are not grounded, then you're probably going to end up in jail. Okay. Yeah. You're probably just going to end up
and then probably get pardoned by Trump.
That part right there. That whole part. I probably wouldn't, but okay, I'm going with that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going with that. Yeah, that part right there. But you got to do that. And so I think I know people that are like, oh, girl, you should run. Oh, girl, guy, you should run. Oh, do that. But, they're telling everybody they should run for office. Maybe not everybody should run for office. But there are also things that people can do other than running for office, because we depend on so many people. I have a great team of folks that make me look good, that make me sound good, that keep our office together, that make sure our constituents have the things that they need. They help analyze policy. They represent, they do all of the things. I could not do all of this stuff if I had to do this stuff and that stuff. Right? Like all the people who work for the city, all the people who work for the state. I'm not doing anything in Parks and Rec. I'm not collecting the trash. I'm not doing, I'm not the lifeguard. I'm not that. I'm not the person who sends you the bill from Dawn Hester's office. Okay. I'm not that person. We all need
Give me that
people.
name though. I want the name.
We all need people that are doing things to make a city, to make a state, to make the government, despite what our current president thinks. Government is people, for the people, by the people, but it is really by the people. And it's the people who go to work every day. It's the people who show up every day. It's the people who do the filing, who send the emails, who take the complaints, who answer the phone. It's all of those people that really make government do the thing that it does. It's not just the elected officials.
Sounds like in order to be successful, you need a team behind you. And also, I'm going to plagiarize, something that you said earlier and, take full credit for it. But I think another thing, whenever you're looking at whether somebody should be a public servant run for office or not, are they stoking fears? Are they pointing out a whole bunch of problems? Or are they actually getting their hands dirty in the community trying to find a solution?
Absolutely.
Because
and somebody said that, any old idiot can identify a problem, but it takes real courage to find a solution.
I like that.
So anybody can find a problem. Doesn't take much brain matter for that.
I say I've had an absolute blast.
And none of the questions, we totally didn't answer any of the questions. We just had our own conversation. I love it.
I actually forgot that there were questions that I had sent you. I mean,
I love it. I loved our conversation. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you very much for acting out with me, Senator.
Absolutely.